Alright, back again with another collection video, this time going through my PS3 games, which there are quite a lot, but nowhere near as many as the PS4. The PS3 is one of my favorite consoles of all time. It may be a strange choice because the games weren't that great in the early days, but as the console kept on going for years and years, the lineup became really strong in my opinion. There are a lot of games here that are fantastic. So let's get going. Start off with a pretty expensive one. This is 3D Dot Game Heroes. This is the American copy. I unfortunately don't have the European one. It's the same game. There is no region locking for the console, but I just like to have the PEGI logo in front because I have most of my games from the PAL region. So it always annoys me a little bit to have these on the shelf, but what can you do? Also for the PS3, one other difference between these is that the American ones have this logo on the spine, which European games don't have, as you can see here, right? And this logo annoys me a lot for whatever reason. Whenever I see this game on the shelf, I wish I had the European version. But yeah, this is one of those games that are featured very often in hidden gem videos. It's a From Software game released by Atlus. So those two combined make for a title that's one of the more expensive games on the PS3. It's a Zelda clone. It's an alright game. I kind of like it. It's not my favorite From Software game by any means, but it has a very unique art style as well. Everything is built from these squares, as you can see on the back cover. So the art style is quite different from anything else I've seen. And it's a fun game. Definitely worth checking out if you can get it for a good price. Next, I already spoiled this, but Adam's Venture Chronicles. This is a European exclusive, I believe. It's a Bible game. It's really bad. It's basically an Uncharted clone. So you run around in temples and platform, and there's some of the most pathetic puzzles ever created in video games. It's really bad puzzles. And it's not a good game, but it has that so bad that it's good charm to it. So I would suggest getting this if you're into playing like games that are so bad that they are funny. The writing is actually pretty funny in this game as well. The main character is a complete twat and quite entertaining at that. Next up, another weird one. This is Africa. I believe exclusive to Japan and the US, so this is the American version. Released by Natsume, known for Harvest Moon. It's a photographic game where you are driving around an African savanna and just taking photos of animals. You're then graded for the quality of your photos, and there are all kinds of challenges. I do have the platinum trophy for this, so I played quite a bit of this. It is a game that I would recommend to anyone who likes Pokemon Snap or the maybe something like Beyond Good and Evil that also has a photography portion to it quite prominently. So it is again quite a bit of jank, but it is also something worth trying out, I think. Next up, I have Alice Madness Returns. This also comes with a free download for the first game, which is, what is the name of it? American McGee's Alice, so the PC game. There is a free download for this. This is a download code. I've used it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Very dark horror themed Alice in Wonderland platformer. Not the greatest platformer out there, but definitely an interesting one. I really like the gothic art style. The first game is... it hasn't aged well. The controls are really bad. I also played the first game on the PS3. The controls are awful, horrible controls. But the atmosphere in that game is just fantastic. It's a really difficult 3D platformer with some like grotesque horror imagery. Yeah, I think American McGee, the guy, has tried to make some new ones, but they haven't ever gotten off the ground, unfortunately. Continuing with Aliens versus Predator, this is the steelbook. Has the alien xenomorph on the front and the Predator on the back. Does have a really thick booklet as well. This is a game that got average reviews on release, but I kind of like it. One of the interesting things about these Aliens vs Predators games, this is not the only one. There are other ones as well on the PC. One of the curiosities with this is that you get to play as the Xenomorph, the Predator, and the Colonial Marine. So there are different campaigns for all the different characters, and they play completely differently. So the Xenomorph campaign is more like a stealth action game. The Predator one is more like a straightforward action game with also some stealth. And then the Colonial Marines campaign is just survival horror because you're getting killed from every direction. But yeah, it's an okay Aliens game. Alien licensed games are quite often pretty good, which is surprising because many video game movie adaptations are really bad. But the Alien games are often quite good. I have some of the other ones for other consoles that I'll show later, but yeah, it's a good one, I think. Alone in the Dark Inferno. This is the enhanced edition of one of the worst games of the last generation. I absolutely hate this game. It is so clunky and buggy. The frame rate is awful. The storyline is awful. The gameplay has ridiculously bad choices with the inventory management and everything. And yeah, one of the worst games on the PS3 in my opinion. Nowhere near as good as the older Alone in the Dark games. What next? Oh, this is Alpha Protocol, the espionage RPG created by Obsidian, who would later make Fallout New Vegas, I believe. So this is just garbage, but it is so bad that it's really enjoyable. The gameplay is horrible. The gunplay is horrible. The writing is ridiculously bad, but it has a lot of branching paths, a lot of just it's like a 2000 Steven Seagal movie. It's so freaking bad. But I also played it, I think 2 or 3 times, just because I wanted to see all the different branching paths, and whatever, try out the different play styles. And it's just, yeah, it has to be played to be understood, like what it even is. It is a unique experience, to put it lightly. Right. Then some games that are definitely not unique experiences. I have a couple of Assassin's Creed games here. Actually, only 2. Not a huge fan of the series. I really liked the second one. I've never played the first one, but the second one is really good. And it's the prototypical Ubisoft open world game. One of the first ones in that style. So this is one of the reasons why there are so many that came later. This was a massively popular game. Huge success for them. And for a reason. It has a great open world. The storyline's interesting. And this is the point where I think this is the high point for the entire series. I've only played Brotherhood in addition to the second one, and this is it's an okay game, I guess. More of the same from the second game, nothing too special. Has some DLC. This is the Da Vinci edition with the cardboard box. I think it only has download codes. There isn't anything really extra in it. Yeah, it's the game case and then some download codes. This cardboard box. It's an okay game. I never went back to Assassin's Creed after this. Some of the games may be good. I'm supposed to play the fourth one at some point because that's one of the better liked ones, but I'm just not really that into Assassin's Creed, so I never went back to it. Right, another series I have some games for, but not all of them. This is Batman Arkham Asylum and then Batman Arkham City. So the first two Rocksteady Arkham games. The first one is truly fantastic. It has that really nice, contained, hub-based environment, really detailed environments, lots of side missions, and everything works well. This is definitely one of the better PS3 games, in my opinion. Arkham City, also a great game. I don't like this as much as the first one, simply because I prefer the hub over the open world, but that's just me. Also, this is one of the games where they cut content from the main game to put as DLC, which is ridiculous. So all the Catwoman stuff in a game is behind a paywall, and if you go to those places in the game, you are prompted to go to the store and buy the DLC. So thanks for that. I've never played the DLC, mainly because of that reason. I don't like it when these companies are trying to push DLC on me, so I never played it. This is a great FPS title, Battlefield Bad Company, a spin-off for the Battlefield series, known for being one of those PS3 titles that had the destroyable environments. So pretty much everything in this game can be blown to pieces. All the buildings and everything can be destroyed. So fun storyline. Just it's like a comedy FPS title, not very serious, just a good time. Then I have some BioShock titles here. This is the original, then the second one, and also Infinite. I never got the PS4 re-release for these. I really liked the first one a lot. I remember playing it over and over again when I was younger. BioShock 2, made by a different developer. A lot of people like this game a lot. I never really got into it that much. It has some interesting ideas where you're playing as the Big Daddy on the cover. And I should probably try to play it again at some point to see if I like it better this time. And then BioShock Infinite, I wasn't a huge fan of this game. The strength of the first game is that it's a very unique experience in terms that you can customize your character and all the powers and the weaponry in many different ways. So you can play it in various different ways. So it reminds me a little bit of something like Deus Ex in that sense. There are many different play styles and whatnot. And Infinite, on the other hand, is more like a straightforward FPS game. You go along in a linear line and you shoot everything, and that's that. So it's more simple in terms of gameplay design. The world is more complex, but the gameplay just wasn't as engaging, in my opinion. Also, the storyline doesn't really hold up that well. If you play it multiple times, it doesn't really. It's not the best, in my opinion. But yeah, right. Next up, Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger. If I remember correctly, I don't have the manual for this. No, this is not complete in box. That's unfortunate. I'll probably upgrade this at some point. There's a limited edition for this with cardboard covers and everything else. So I'll probably upgrade this at some point. But Calamity Trigger is one of the rare fighting games that I have played a lot of. I really like this style of gameplay. Also, the the single player experience for this game is fantastic, with a full story mode and branching paths. So you have all the different characters you can play. I think I've played through this game with all of the characters, and I've 100% completed it. So there are lots of branching paths depending on which character you play as, what you decide to do, who you win, who you lose against. All these sort of things make the experience very. So, Calamity Trigger, definitely a recommendation, even for people who don't like fighting games, because it's a pretty easy to approach fighting game. Hard to master, but easy to approach. Right. Next up, Borderlands 2. I also have the first game, but I have never played it, so I'll show it in another video. This has some of the DLC, I think. I haven't played all of the DLC. There's a lot of downloadable content for this game, but yeah, just a classic looter shooter. Lots of fun humor in it as well. Another classic game, Burnout Paradise. This is the ultimate box. I believe this doesn't have the DLC, and I don't think I've ever played the DLC, but one of the best racing games on the system, definitely. Has this open world that you explore, and is just ridiculously fast and fun. What's next? Call of Duty is next. So there's World at War, an okay title, I think. Then there is Modern Warfare, the original one, the second one, and the third one. I've never played this one on the PS3. I played this on the Xbox 360, and I also played the online on the Xbox 360 with some friends back in the day. But this is a great campaign, great online. Oh, I have the GameStop sticker on it. I have to get that off at some point. Controversial opinion, my favorite is the second one. A lot of people who loved the original one didn't like the second one at all, because the online gameplay is so different. It is much more complex and has all these different kill streaks and whatnot that just completely break the game at points. But I thought it was a lot of fun. Also, the campaign, I think, worth playing. And this one was the first with the Spec Ops, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this has the Spec Ops mode. So these are like challenge missions, which were a nice addition. I liked those a lot. And then the third one, not a huge fan of this. I think this is the point where the series started to go down the hill. An okay FPS title. Spec Ops were fine, not as fun as the first Spec Ops missions in the second game, but yeah. The Call of Duty titles, I think I have quite a few of them, but nowhere near all of them. The second one is still the best, like undeniably the second one. If you are into old school FPS games, the second one is definitely the best one. I also have Black Ops, which I don't like at all. The multiplayer for Black Ops is fun. It's not great, but it's fun. It's ridiculous. And it also has some of the best levels, I think, for online Call of Duty. But the campaign for Black Ops is just garbage. Complete garbage. Right. Another FPS title. This is Call of Juarez, Bound in Blood. Is this the first one in the series? I can't remember. I have a couple of these. This is the only one I've played. I remember liking this quite a bit. It's a Western FPS. Very violent and gory. Revenge story. Like a typical Western revenge story. I remember liking this quite a bit. It's an okay FPS for the system. Right, Catherine, an absolute classic. I have the American release of this. In one of the PS4 videos, I showed the limited edition or the collector's edition for the PS4, but I remember playing this game back in a day and just being completely perplexed by it. Like, such a unique game with the sliding puzzles combined with platforming and all the social stuff at the bar, talking to characters. I just absolutely love this game. One of the best on the system. Then I have a disappointment here. Nice. This is Condemned 2. So this is the sequel to Condemned Criminal Origins, which unfortunately has never been released on PlayStation systems physically, I don't think. So the original game is just a fantastic horror title combined with like a detective crime scene investigation game. This one is more campy, linear, just horror action horror game maybe. I'm not a huge fan of this one. It's fine, but nowhere near the original game. It does have some enemy types and levels that are really creepy, with these half-naked heroin addicts stalking you in an abandoned warehouse, and that whole sequence is quite nerve-wracking. But yeah, unfortunately, not the best game. Dante's Inferno, next one up. This is a God of War clone based on the classic novel by Dante Alighieri, The Divine Comedy. So this is the first part of that, Inferno, in video game form. A very loose adaptation in the sense that, I mean, the original book isn't a fantasy action title. But yeah, this is definitely worth checking out. This is also quite expensive now. Also, I have the Nordic European physical for this, which is more expensive than the other ones as well. So this is an interesting title, definitely worth checking out. Plays a lot like God of War, the old school God of War games. So the gameplay is pretty good. Next up, I have... How many do I have? I have 4. I have 4 copies of the same game here. So I have Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition. Has the DLC on disc. And I also have... Right, I'll show the manual. So the manual is very nice, actually. Oh, it's not very nice for this one. Yeah, but it is very nice for this one. So I also have this Japanese copy. It's the same Prepare to Die edition, just it's called With Artorias of the Abyss edition. So it's the same release, really. This has a much nicer manual. I don't know why the Japanese release got such a nice manual in comparison to what we got in a Western release. And then I also have, because I'm a maniac, I also have the European limited edition. This is the main game, so this doesn't have the DLC. And this comes with a soundtrack and all kinds of stuff. I'll open it because it's easy to open. Right, it has an art book that also houses the soundtrack. There's some behind the scenes footage on a DVD as well. And this art book is pretty fantastic. I unfortunately don't have any of the hardcover Dark Souls art books that have been released. But this is better than nothing. The crystal enemies are such a pain in the ass in this game. Yeah, also has the art vertically. Actually, this is pretty nice. It's easy to show. Yeah, and then the game. This is just a regular game case. What is this card? Bonus downloadable content on a card. Yeah, and this manual is just a basic one. Nothing special here. So I have this, and then I also have. Hopefully that sound wasn't too loud. I also have this Japanese collector's edition. So all of the Dark Souls games in Japan were released with these black slip covers as well. Mine does have a little bit of damage here on the cover, but it's good enough for me. So this is again the Artorias of the Abyss edition. It does have a game guide, written in Japanese, so not very useful for me. Also, I don't need it because I've played through the game so many times. And it does have the soundtrack on a separate disc. I believe this also has the DLC music on it. Yeah, so this is a different soundtrack than the other limited edition has. This also has the DLC tracks. And then there is a map as well here. This sort of stylized map of the game area. Looks quite nice. Is it two-sided? Oh yes, it is. It also has the different character classes that you can play as, and their base stats on the other side. And then this is just the Artorias of the Abyss edition. Is the manual different? No, it's the same manual as with the regular Japanese edition. So the reason why I have this and the regular Japanese Artorias of the Abyss edition is because I asked a friend of mine to get this for me when he went to Japan, and he accidentally bought the regular one first, and then later on during a second trip he got me this one that I actually wanted. So that's why I have so many different versions of this. One of my favorite games of all time. It's just absolutely fantastic. So having 4 different copies of it, not a problem at all. Right, what is next? Dead Island. First-person zombie game. I really like zombies. I like first-person shooters. So this is the type of game that I enjoy. Not the best one. The first 2 areas in this game are fantastic, but then it just keeps going on for too long. So if they cut some content from this would be an all-time classic. Now it's just a worthy PS3 release, right? Like definitely worth playing, but not even near any of my favorites on the system. Right, what else do we have? Dead Rising 2 off the record. So this is the PS3 enhanced edition of Dead Rising 2. I haven't played the original one at all. So this is an enhanced edition that has a different main character. So the storyline is a bit different. This is the main character from the first game who returns here. And the leather jacketed, the guy who has the yellow leather jacket or whatever, the main character from the Dead Rising 2 original game, he's a side character in this one. Yeah. Good zombie game. The original one is definitely the best one in the series, but that's a good one as well. Next up, I have a couple of Dead Space games. This is the original one. This is the second one. I was never a huge fan of the second one, but the first one is really good. Survival horror titles. Some of the better known games on the system. I don't have the third one. I never played it, so maybe I'll get it at some point, but not a huge fan of the direction they went into with the third one. Now, this is one of the... this is a game that I absolutely hate and love at the same time. It's Deadly Premonition, the director's cut. Becoming quite difficult to find. I was lucky that I grew up with the PS3, so everything I have here I have got for a good price. I haven't really paid that much for anything here, really, except for the ones that I bought at launch. at full price, like Bioshock Infinite. But this game, for example, I got this for a good price. Found it in a used bin at GameStop and picked it up. Suda 51 game, completely broken in terms of the controls. Just a ridiculous game overall. One of the strangest horror games probably ever made. So I played it 100%. I got the platinum trophy, and when I got it, I thought to myself, I will never play this game again. It's garbage. But it's a strange one. Very difficult to figure out what to even say about it. Right. Then I have here Demon Souls. So this is From Software's first title that could be called a Souls-like, I guess, if you don't want to count some of the early PS1 titles that they made. But yeah, brutally challenging and utterly engrossing. Well, that's a really good description. One of my best blind buys of all time, I think. I bought this blind just because the cover was nice, and I started playing it, and I was just completely floored by the game. I hadn't played anything like it before. Extremely slow paced and challenging third-person action game. Yeah. So which one's better, this or the remake? I think I prefer the remake on a PS5, just because the frame rate is so much better. The frame rate on the Poison Swamp area and this one is around 10 to 15, so it's almost unplayable at some points, but it is so good that you want to push through. Then I also have the limited edition for this. So this is the European Black Phantom edition. The box is not in the greatest condition, but it's fine. It's good enough for me. And this one comes with a hardcover art book. Yes. So this art book is in the same style as the Dark Souls one. Hardcover, also has the soundtrack on a separate disc. And it's different areas and enemies. Really nice art for Tower of Latria as well. Some of the side characters you find throughout the game. And then it does have a strategy guide as well. So this is soft cover, translated into English, which is very nice, or written in English. I believe this is a translation of a Japanese guide, but I could be mistaken here, right? Just fantastic stuff. And then the game on a different color palette. So I originally had on my shelf a standalone copy of this red cover, and then when at some point I saw this cover, I thought, wait, is there some difference here? So the red one is for this Black Phantom edition. I had randomly picked up this red one, which is much more rare and, well, for some reason without the box or any of the extras. And then I ended up picking up this blue one as well, so that I have a complete copy of this and a complete copy of this. So I have both of them. This Black Phantom edition it was at some point very expensive. Maybe it isn't as expensive now that there is a remake out of on the PS5, but it used to be very expensive. Also, I forgot I have some extra stuff as well, Dark Souls and Demon Souls stuff. So I also have this. I forgot to show this. This is a custom-made keychain that I got as a gift. So thank you to the person who gifted me this. You know who you are. It's one of the bosses from the first Dark Souls game, Gravelord Nito. And then I also have some other stuff that I forgot to pick up, so I will briefly walk over to my closet and pick up the stuff that I forgot. So both Demon Souls and Dark Souls had some extra stuff that I have as well. So these are the pre-order bonus soundtracks and maps for all the 3 Dark Souls titles. So this is the same as the soundtrack that's in this one. I think doesn't have the DLC tracks. Also has the map. It's the same map as from one of these that I showed earlier. Then the second game, which I own for the PS4. I don't have the original PS3 copy of Dark Souls 2 actually. Not really looking for it either. I don't like this game at all, but yeah, this has the soundtrack as well. A long soundtrack, 35 tracks, and does have a map. It's a big map. I'm not going to completely unfold it, but it has the same art style as the Dark Souls 1 map, with all the characters on one side and then the game area on the other side. And then the third one I have here as well. If I can close this, put it backwards, put it like that, and it should close. Yes. And then the third one comes in this. I have it in a protected plastic because it's cardboard. So comes in this nice cardboard sleeve. Has the soundtrack. Doesn't have DLC music, but it also comes with this map. That's again in the same art style. Very difficult to show these maps because they're very big, but yeah. So very glad to have these as well. What is this slip of paper? Some Japanese writing that I don't know. So this is the Japanese bonus for Dark Souls 3. I'll put it into the protective case at some other point. I can't get it in there right now. And then I also have a Demon Souls art book and soundtrack. I believe this art book is, this is a different art book than the one in the Black Phantom edition. So I can't even remember where I got this from. So I don't even know what this came with, if this is a pre-order bonus or whatever. I got this separately at some point for a really good price, so I picked it up. Yeah, so that's everything about Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Now we are moving on to other titles. Right, what is this? This is Dishonored, Game of the Year edition. I bought this Game of the Year edition because I wanted to play the DLC, which is on disc, and I never played the DLC. Wait, where is the main? I should have the regular game for Dishonored as well. It's probably somewhere in the cupboard. I'll have to go look for it after I stop filming this. But yeah, Dishonored Game of the Year edition has DLC on disc. Fun first-person stealth game. I really like stealth games, so Dishonored is right up my alley. Dragon Age Origins. This is the only game in a series that I've played, and I liked it quite a bit. I never finished it. This is a story that I always tell my friends. So some people who are watching this have heard this before multiple times. But I played this to the final boss, and because earlier in the game I was hoarding money, I had sold all the equipment for all the characters that weren't in my party. So there are many different companions that you have in this game. So I had sold all the clothes and all the weapons and the equipment that those characters had. And then in the final fight, all the characters run to the battlefield, and half of my characters are wearing only boxer shorts and are just punching the final boss of the game without any weapons. And they all get obliterated and they die. And I didn't have a save file before the fight began, or before the end game began. So half of my characters are just going to die and I can't do anything about it. So I got so pissed off that I stopped playing the game. So I've never finished it, but I really liked it up to that point. Right. One of the hidden gems of the system, Driver San Francisco. This is one of the best driving games on the PS3. Just a ridiculous sci-fi storyline with body swapping. A really unique racing game, so definitely worth checking out. Next up, DuckTales Remastered, a great re-release for the NES platformer made by WayForward, I believe. Yeah, WayForward. No, that's the Disney logo. That's WayForward. Right. So the people who made Shantae, they made the DuckTales Remastered game. Really fantastic. Duke Nukem Forever, really bad FPS title. I do have all the contents here, so it does have the 3D classes and the poster. I'm not going to unfold it. It's a 3D. It's like a 3D rendition of the cover art, and then yeah, nothing else here worth showing. This game was developed for like 10 years and then they finally released it and it wasn't really that good. Dynasty Warriors 8, hack and slash title. An okay game in a series, not one of the best, but an okay title. Then I have here El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron. This is again one of those strange PS3 titles. You are going through some sort of an alternate universe. I have no idea. It is a really strange game. It plays like a typical PS3 third-person action game. So it's really fast-paced, lots of dodging, lots of different attacks. Plays well. Has a really strange, like religious, philosophical storyline. Yeah, I also have for this one. I have the American one. There's also a European. The same release has been made in Europe, but I have the American one for this. Right, Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. This is a Ninja Theory game. So the people who made Hellblade. Some people say that this is an underrated masterpiece. I don't know about that. It's all right. The world is very interesting. The characters, not so much. One of the curiosities here is that it was written by Alex Garland, so the British writer filmmaker who is behind 20 Days Later and many other interesting titles. And it also has Andy Serkis in it as the main character. So the actor of Gollum, for example, from Lord of the Rings. And this game also has Andy Serkis' actual face in it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the game does get quite out there at some points. It's a very strange game. It doesn't feel like that at first, but it does get really strange at some point. Right, some Fallout games. This is Fallout 3, Game of the Year edition, has the DLCs. Oh, there's a GameStop sticker, I have to remove that. It's an okay Fallout game. I'm an old school Fallout fan, I like the second one the best. 3 is fine, I enjoyed it. And then Fallout New Vegas is the great one for the consoles. Created by Obsidian. Has fantastic writing in it, fantastic characters, quest design, world design, just all in all, just a fantastic game. I don't have the DLCs for this one physically. I do have them digitally. I've played all of them. Does suffer from the same technical problems as Fallout 3 does. So the frame rate is really bad at times, and the more you play the game, the more it starts to lag, which is unfortunate. But yeah, a good game nonetheless. What else do I have here? Some Far Cry titles. Solid FPS. The second one is probably the weirdest in a series. Set in Africa, you have malaria. You have to take drugs constantly to keep the malaria away. Your guns jam, and it's very different from the other ones. The third one is probably the best in a series. This is the far out game that most people have played probably, and this is also the mold that the other Far Cry games after this follow. So all the other Far Cry games after 3 are kind of like Far Cry 3 again and again. The first and second games are very different, so they are definitely worth checking out as well. Some horror titles here is Fear, First Encounter Assault Recon, and then the sequel, Fear 2 Project Origin, and the third one, Fear 3. The first one I remember playing on a PC back in the day and loving it. Just a really creepy first-person shooter, great atmosphere, and the bullet time gameplay worked really well for this one. The other ones I'm not a huge fan of. The second one I remember being okay. So these are more like first-person shooter action games than horror titles, unfortunately. But they are horror games still, so they are worth checking out if you're into horror games. The first one is definitely the best one in the series. Right. Fight Night Round 4 boxing title. Not a huge fan of this. I really liked some of the PS2 Fight Night titles. But yeah, the series is dead now anyway, so there's a reason for that. The original games were more arcade style, and these are trying to be realistic, but not really. And yeah, it's okay. If you like boxing, it's fine, but not the greatest in my opinion. What else do we have? God of War Collection. This is the first and the second game remastered, so the PS2 original titles. I really like these games a lot, especially the second one. The new God of War titles are very different, and I think just in every conceivable way better, but these are the origins and definitely games worth playing. Yeah, for this one I also have the American copy for some reason. There's a European, it's the same release in Europe. Right, what else? I'll do a couple more for this video and then I'll start a new one. God of War 3. So this is the third game in the series. Definitely the best one of the original games. The opening cinematics and the opening gameplay of God of War 3 was just mind-blowing back in the day. Then I have some Grand Theft Auto here, Grand Theft Auto 4, and then the DLC, episodes from Liberty City, has on disc both the Lost and Damned and the Ballad of Gay Tony, and then Grand Theft Auto 5. GTA 4 is the reason why I originally bought the PlayStation 3. I got it, I think, 2 months before this was released, and I was just waiting for this the whole time. A bit disappointed by it. I was never a fan of this game. I don't like the more gritty and dark and realistic style that they went for here. I much prefer the more cartoony style of Vice City and San Andreas, but maybe I'll go back to it at some point and look if my opinion has changed. I haven't played it in over 10 years. And then the DLCs, I like these a lot. So I think these are better than the base game, especially the Ballad of Gay Tony, the second one. Just a fantastic take on the GTA 4 world. The second one is a lot like the old school PS2 GTA games with just ridiculous missions and ridiculous side characters. The first one is like this biker gang sub-story, which is pretty interesting as well. And then GTA 5, I mean, not much to say about this one, just an all-time classic, great open-world game. Right, some Guitar Hero titles. This Guitar Hero Metallica, Guitar Hero World Tour. I played a lot of these when I was younger. The Metallica one has a lot of really good tracks from other bands as well. It has Merciful Fate, does have Foo Fighters, Mastodon, Slayer, Motorhead, Alice in Chains, all kinds of great bands. The Sword, an underrated metal band. And then the World Tour one has also a lot of really good tracks. I think this has Jimi Hendrix in it. Has a bunch of songs by Tool. Also songs by Muse, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, I think. Yeah. And just a lot of good tracks on this in this game. Yeah. I played the guitar and the bass and the drums and all of those back in the day. I can't play any of them in real life, but in Guitar Hero I was okay. I beat all of the games on expert mode, but yeah, lots of good memories with those games. Right, Heavenly Sword. This is a Ninja Theory title. Yeah, so the people who made Enslaved and Hellblade. This was a release title, I think. So this was available when the PS3 was first released. It's an alright third-person hack-and-slash title. Very short, very simple, nothing special. Right, Heavy Rain. I've already covered this in one of the PS4 videos. Not a huge fan of David Cage. I remember enjoying this a lot. It's a fun game to play. Not the best one out there. Quantic Dream, not the best studio out there. They don't really write good games, but they're always fun to play and enjoyable still. Then I have Hitman here, Hitman HD Trilogy. So these are the second, third, and fourth games. The first one has never been re-released. There are some problems with the PC version of the game as well, so that may be one of the reasons. It's also very different from the other ones. So these are some of my favorite games of all time, especially Contracts, which is a unpopular opinion, but I prefer Contracts over the other ones. Contract it's like Hitman 2, but with more in it, and it does have some of the blood money, like the level design choices as well, already in it, but it isn't as reliant on those set pieces as Blood Money. Blood Money is fantastic as well, but I like the open-endedness of Contract a lot more. Also, Contract is the darkest one of these games. The music in that game is really, really dark electronic music. I like that a lot, and the overall feel and style of the game is a lot darker, a lot more serious than the other games. Yeah, a great release. I also have the limited edition of Hitman Absolution, which is the reboot of the title. I remember hating this game back when it was first released, but I replayed this a couple of years ago, and I actually liked it a lot better than I remembered. It wasn't as bad as I remembered. It's very different from the other Hitman games in that it has this linear action movie style to it. The characters are awful. The writing is awful in this game, but it has a linear level design, and it's not as open as the other Hitman games. But I did revise my opinion on it to a degree. Also, this comes with a art book. I'm not sure why this game needs an art book, because it's not really that style of game, but it's always good to have these still. Some of the environments look really good in this art book, but I mean, they aren't really anything special in the game, as far as I remember. Right, let's put it there. Then I'll do, let's say, 2 more, and that's the video. No, I'll do 1 more, because the second one takes a lot of time. Right, let's do Homefront last. This is an FPS title that got crushed by reviewers at launch. I think this is an underrated FPS game on the system. It is a Call of Duty clone. It's nothing special, but there is the curiosity here that it's written by John Milius, so the guy who wrote Apocalypse Now, or the original screenplay for Apocalypse Now. I don't think they used it in a movie. It was the basis for the script for the movie that was actually made and released, but I think they changed it quite a bit. Yeah, it's written by a guy who knows how to write. And the storyline's pretty interesting. It's North Korea invading US, and you are fighting alongside this resistance group. Very short, very simple Call of Duty clone, but I think this is a prototypical 6 out of 10, maybe 5 out of 10 if you want to be really critical. Game that isn't as bad as people say. So I think it's worth playing for anyone who likes first-person shooters. Right, let's stop there. I forgot Deus Ex because I have it in a separate place, so I'll start with Deus Ex next, and then I'll do the rest of these stacks that I have here. So, yeah, thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in a couple of days.